Adventure Ho, Lumineers! Welcome back to another episode of Ducktail Dads. I am back. I took a 1 week vacation hiatus. Konnor and Mack held down the fort. Thank you both. I am joined tonight by Konnor and Mack, apparently the new staples of the show for the fall season of Ducktail Dads. We are also joined by one other very special guest, which is Winnie the Pooh in my background here. I'll jump into what's new in your world. Since I missed last week, I did not get to give a breakdown of our sealed night experience, but I found a lot of success on the night, much to my surprise, and ended up coming away with this really cool prize. So I got a stand-up display of the Attack of the Vine. Winnie the Pooh on one side, Belle on the other. I'm really excited about it. This will be the cameo appearance, and then it'll go into storage or into another person's collection. We'll have to see. Other than that, and over the last week, we've been thriving in the Attack of the Vine season, and I'm very fortunate to have a significant other that not only supports me playing this game and being interested and involved in this game, but also engages in the game and plays it with me via Pack Rush. So we've been opening a decent amount of product. I think on the whole we've opened a case total, and we've been very lucky, very fortunate. Much to Mack's chagrin, we are very, very fortunate. Mack highlighted last week the fact that I had opened 2 enchanteds. And then, since the last episode recorded, we opened one more box, and my wife was fortunate enough to pull another enchanted, and it was a car pack. So car packs are luck, and my wife has the luckiest hands in the Midwest. I will say, she happens to pull everything. It's crazy. So I just have her pick all my packs, pick all my boxes. She opens all the packs, and then she gets all the luck. So that's how it works. Yeah, so we have another enchanted. It's a Malin Lee, which is really exciting. I love the little stickers they have on there, the sticker-like artwork they have on the card. It's really cute. But yeah, it's been a blast opening Attack of the Vine. It's a great sealed set. It's a great Pack Rush set. Of all the product that we've opened, I've opened a single copy of Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. Been looking for it the entire time I've been opening, and then like in one of the last packs my wife opened it. She goes, "It does exist," and then shows me the Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, which was a nice little chuckle. But that's on the Lorcana front. On the personal front, we went on vacation. We spent a lot of time with my sister and her family up at a cabin somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. Spent a lot of time on the lake, a lot of time in the water, a lot of time fishing, playing in the beach, getting all sandy and dirty, playing with our cousins, taking toys and sharing toys with our cousins. We went up to Lake Itasca, to the headwaters of the Mississippi, and we walked across the Mississippi River at the very beginning of it. We swam in the Mississippi. It was a blast. A lot of family time. It's always a treat. But today as a recording on a Monday, the Mondayest of all Mondays, I like to say, after a week-long vacation. It's hard to get back into the swing of regular routine in daily life, but fortunately we had kind of Sunday to reset before going back to work on Monday, and now we're back at it, and I'm looking forward to seeing Konnor and Mack very soon. We'll get more into that a little bit later, I'm sure. But Mack, Konnor, whoever wants to go first, what's new in your world?
Yeah, I will go ahead and jump in. Ryan, that sounds incredible. I have to ask, were you successful in your fishing endeavors?
Very much so. We don't take fish home from the trip because we don't eat a lot of fish in our normal daily life or diet, but we found a significant amount of success where we caught our limits after having a fish fry midweek as well. So we effectively caught a lot of fish. I was not as successful.
Wow,
I'm not a great fisherman, awesome. But my wife is a fantastic fisherwoman, and she found a lot of success. My dad found a lot of success. My sister's in-laws found a lot of success, and so we ate good fish, and then they all went home with their limits. So
that is fantastic. I love to hear it. Avid fisherman, and so it's always fun to see other people having some success. So. But yeah, so for what's new in my world, from a personal standpoint, my kids are currently on round 2 of big kid beds. Ooh, whoop, whoop. Yep. Ooh. And for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, those non-parents, it's essentially we've gone from a crib to a crib that has no siding, right? They can just walk into their crib and essentially just lay down by themselves, which seems like no big deal. However, with toddlers, they will go anywhere they want at any moment's notice. So the reason we transitioned, my son 2 out of 3 nights over the weekend had flipped out of his crib while in his sleep sack, and not ideal for the whole injury thing. So we decided to go ahead and transition, bite the bullet, and so far only like 1 or 2 little oops, they rolled out of bed and were super confused, and we had to go resettle them into the nightly routine. But otherwise, it is going great, and the kids are hyped. They think it's incredible and so fun. It's so different, so cool. So it's pleasantly surprised, and that's it's always fun to see the kids excited. From a Lorcana standpoint, I was able to go to my first sealed or pre-sealed, I guess, I don't know, event last Friday at Game Center with a Z. Fantastic. I got absolutely tossed. It was not ideal. I had a few different types of synergies in my decks. I tried to go for the Grand Slam, Posey, Potato Shift, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse tag team combos, and all that jazz. And turns out that is not very consistent when you only have 1 or 2 of each. So I ended up going 1 and 2. My round 1 and round 2 opponents were quite good. And I like to think that maybe I was okay, but they were just that much better. But it was so fun to hold an Attack of the Vine product in my hand, to see it live, and to open a card and hold it. Because, as we will talk about a little bit later, that is a rare sighting. And so, had a great time though. My best pull, again, I think would have to be the Minnie Mouse tag team legendary, because I do, as some of you may know, like to run Baja and the Sapphire Emerald combination, and that is a potentially viable high roll deck that I'm looking to potentially play around with. So, had a great time. Kids are doing well, and we are looking forward to the next couple of days of Lorcana. Mack, how about you? What's going on?
A couple of things going around in my world this past week. First things first, I'll start on the Lorcana side. I am narrowing in on a couple of deck lists that I want to work through when it comes to a core constructed feel. Probably got to narrow down to 3 or 4 of them. Now it's just the accumulation phase, getting all the cards in hand, because I am very much a need to shuffle the cards in hand in order to feel like I know what I'm doing type of person. So even if I have to proxy a couple things here and there whenever we play test, playing in person or playing with the physical cards is truly where I find the most joy in the game. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. A lot of different options, but I'm just very excited with, I think, I'll say the opening day variety that this rotation has. There seems to be a lot of new flavors that has come around in terms of deck variety. I think as opposed to kind of the rotation from Season 1 to Season 2 the last time around. So and I get a very positive vibe, and just kind of as I'm observing throughout various Lorcana discords or chats and what have you that I'm a part of, I think the community is very much excited with what's here as well when it comes to Season 3, and the feeling of this is kind of what I think it was supposed to be last time with the duo inks and what they're doing with the tag team and having them be a high influence in the decks, as well as not just having 75% of your rotated set be reprints. So it's nice to have a whole nother 5 full sets in core constructed. So, and I think that's the feeling that we got after Whispers in the Well came out, when it felt like it was truly 5 full sets, 5 and 31 cards of full of sets. When it came to when Whispers came out, that's when I started to feel a lot of excitement in the game, and now I'm getting that feeling right away here. Right out of the gate when it comes to rotation number 2. So yeah, lots going on. I am prepping though in Lorcana We Ducktail Dads got invited to a birthday bash locally, and I am able to attend. So the dads offline are helping me with my deck to bring to this event. It's a franchise theme, so like all of your cards have to be to a specific franchise, and there are some various rules to be a part of it. So I'm looking forward to that. That's coming up next weekend for me. So that's kind of the last bit of Lorcana news. Off Lorcana though, kind of just in my daily life, what's new in my world. It's today, the day of recording, is my wife and I's 7th year wedding anniversary. So this past weekend, thank you. This past weekend, we shipped our boys off to my parents. So they were with the grandparents all weekend, and me and my wife got a nice weekend to just hang out and celebrate, our 7 years together, as well as getting some work done in the house where we're not just getting distracted by kindergartners and toddlers and preschoolers, just hanging on our legs while we're trying to get work done. So, got a lot of different work done. We're getting close to that feeling where I can breathe and feel relieved on my spring, summer, and upcoming fall work. So a lot of productive work. It is still hot in Minnesota, so we're trying to manage the heat, but I think we're doing okay. Hopefully the next week it looks like it's cooling down. But yeah, lots going on. And I did have an impromptu visit with Scrooge McDuck. My wife, on our wedding anniversary weekend, she actually bought tickets to the Hillary Duff concert. So she went with a friend there Saturday night. And I was like, Konnor, can I just come to your house and invite myself over? And so because I was the chauffeur for my wife and her friend. So we got to hang out, chat a little bit. And then as soon as my wife gave the call, I went to go pick her up, and we got home really, really late of a concert I was not a part of, but she had a blast. So very, very, very busy weekend, both Lorcana and non-Lorcana related for me this past week.
I'll tell you what, anytime I receive a text message from one of the Ducktail dads saying, hey, I'm coming over, sorry, it's, I always have to think to myself, this is what dreams are made of.
Well played. If my wife listens back, she will immediately get that reference. For those of you who don't know, that's from a Hillary Duff song. Well done, Konnor. But yes, I did literally say that in my text message. I was like, Konnor, what are you doing tonight? And he's like, I don't know. What do you have in mind? And I said, can I disrespectfully invite myself over for a couple hours while I wait for my wife's concert to be done? And he said, yeah, once we get home from our splash pad with my kids, feel free to come over and we can just hang out. So yeah, thank you, Konnor, and your lovely wife for letting me just crash for a little while I waited for the chauffeur services to kick back up after the concert was finalized.
Anytime.
So, Mack, you mentioned that you're prepping for this birthday bash. I think we also have we have the anniversary event that we're prepping for. Would you like to remind all the listeners of what the information is for that event as well?
Absolutely, yes. You are referring to the Minnesota 3rd year anniversary event. We're going to just continue to shove it down our listeners' ears until that event is finally upon us. But again, that is August 22nd and 23rd at the Game Center in Roseville, Minnesota. Konnor just went to it. It is a lovely facility. Lots of space, and I think a lot of people in the community are very excited for it. Even we've had a lot of people last year come up from Iowa, as well as drive over from Wisconsin as well, and I anticipate having a pretty decent sized crowd from those areas. So it was a lot of fun last year. Not only just playing in general, my core memory is just being involved and chatting with the community. So in between rounds or in between various events that people have, it was just a lot of catch up for the Minnesota community, Lorcana and non-Lorcana related. So it's a really fun event. If you haven't signed up, please be sure to do so. You can find everything on the Play Hub. So events being Chaos Sealed, Chaos Draft. There's 2 main events each day, that being Infinity and just a Core Constructed. So lots going on. I do have one final update for this. The coordinator, the president, El Presidente of basically the Minnesota Lorcana community, AJ. I am in touch with him. First and foremost, yes, the Ducktail Dads, as we've alluded to before, we will be involved and help out as much as we can throughout that event. But AJ will be on the podcast in one of the upcoming episodes leading up to the anniversary event to just give all the details in one fell swoop. We're still narrowing in on a date, but do expect AJ to be on within the next couple weeks leading up to the anniversary event, so we can get all the details in one centralized location for you to listen to. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and I know we dads are looking forward to it as well. It's going to be a grand old time and a very nice way to kind of end the summer and get into the fall season of Lorcana in Minnesota.
Wonderful. It should be a blast. It was a blast last year. I'm looking forward to joining in the festivities again this year, as is everybody that we've talked to on the podcast and outside the podcast so far. Looking forward to having AJ on as well in the future. Can't wait to chat with him again. It's always a good time when he gets to talk about something he's passionate about, that's for sure. All right, so Attack of the Vine, fellas. How's it been going so far? One of the topics I wanted to bring up a little bit was towards the end of Wilds Unknown, or set 12, previous set. There's a bit of a surge in interest in Disney Lorcana, and that led to some price spikes. And Wilds Unknown was hard to find for a while there. And prices on a product that was available went up significantly. And so now with Attack of the Vine coming out, prices are a little bit higher to start with. And for some reason now, it feels like product is hard to find. Have y'all been able to go out on the hunt? Have you been successful or unsuccessful? What have y'all been finding in terms of product availability in your specific area or locale?
Ryan, not only in my area and locale, but I have searched other areas while I'm visiting family or have a business meeting or just going on an event with the kids. I'll stop by any and all places. I, again, kid you not, I am 0 for 12 on finding anything Attack of the Vine related. There was one store, Barnes & Noble, surprisingly so, had I think 4 or 5 blister packs, but with limit of 2 per person, and so that was fun. MSRP, super nice. However, between 2 or 3 different Walmarts, I want to say two local game stores, both of which were like sold out, like no Lorcana at all. Wilds, like Whispers, Winterspell, nothing. And then Targets, and then a couple Barnes and Nobles. Yeah, it's just it's just crazy. I don't know if it's a production thing, like they didn't supply the market enough, or if it is genuinely this increase in interest. And again, I think a lot of it, like you mentioned, has to do with the high valued enchanters, the iconics coming into the game. People are starting to see that there's some value there, and as you mentioned, there's an incredible surge in price, and when the demand increases but the supply stays the same, economic majors will understand what happens in the economy. It increases the price, the main breakpoint. So it's tough. It's tough. Half the time I go into a store now, I just don't expect anything. I've really, which I mean, again, don't get me wrong. There are some, like the events and league nights and things. Some stores have held some aside for those events, which is great. That'll probably boost some attendance. But yeah, wow. Like even with big box stores, like when it came in, nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's just, wow, just barren. It is just so hard to find. And we're trying to do a Ducktail Dad local event at Mikasa here, and what we usually do is get a trove. We each get a trove and do a little sealed event. And I was thinking, like, oh, maybe it'll be tough if we see troves, and they're a little bit more expensive. I haven't seen any troves. Like, it's just nowhere. There's not even an opportunity to get them. So we're shifting our desire to go into a draft instead. But it's just, woof. Product is scarce, my friends. Absolutely scarce.
So I'll add to your saga, your journey, and we went on a journey of our own, coming back from our cabin trip, thinking, oh, it's big box release. We'll go to some big box stores on our way back down. Back to our house. It'll be a little bit fun adventure meandering our way rather than just like driving straight through. And we saw none at big box stores, and the big box stores we went to didn't even have like a section that was even remotely listed or priced in the realm of what Disney Lorcana blister hanger packs or troves would be listed for. So we we struck out at the big box stores. We did find a local game store on the way down that did have some product available, and they were very much limiting what they were selling so they could reserve supply for their local league nights, and then also limiting so they could have multiple people be able to purchase a trove or a product through them. So we did pick up one trove there, so that was fortunate of us, and that was it was such a long trip and long effort to get there. That was a let's just open all these packs right now kind of situation, just to get it done for some of the gratification of being able to find it. And then we did find a local game store actually in the town we work in that had booster boxes available above MSRP, but still in that like relatively reasonable price range where we were, we put in all this effort. We had money set aside that we were willing to pay, that we were going to buy a bunch of product with, and instead of buying numerous products, we bought just concentrated booster boxes for the product that we were able to purchase with the money was set aside. So we were able to pick up some product, and as Konnor alluded to, we were planning this draft night, so I did set aside one of those booster boxes so that we could have enough product available for us to do some sort of event. So we have that, and then I was fortunate enough to get one order through Best Buy, through like their pre-order system, or not pre-order, but their like pick up in store system. So I got 5 packs through Best Buy, which is the limit that you could purchase there. And since then, I've seen no product available through Best Buy, so I think they sold their whole supply as well. So I don't know if it's just a lot more stores in general are trying to get into Lorcana now with the maybe the price spike at the end of Wilds Unknown and the interest at the start of Attack of the Vine here kind of made it profitable enough or an enticing enough proposition now for more stores to be interested. So now they're distributing the same amount of supply over a greater number of suppliers, and so everybody has fewer product to sell. Or if it's truly this like high demand, low supply situation that Konnor proposed. So hard to say what it is. I'm hopeful maybe that my local big box stores just didn't receive their distributions from main facility yet, and that they were going to stock sometime this week. So I'll keep checking in periodically throughout the week at the different stores that are around me to see if there's anything on the shelves. And if there is, I might pick some up at MSRP. If there's not, okay, I guess, and we'll just wait for the product to become available. I have to think at some point product will become available, even if it ends up being like a second print run of the set because it's selling so well. But nonetheless, we're moving forward with what we have, and I was able to pick up some product at the beginning on pre-release day at the local game stores too. So felt very fortunate to have product available for us to play with on our cabin trip. Mack, have you been on any journeys to find any product?
Yes, I have been. So first and foremost, when we went to our sealed event, that was opening day pre-release. That store was selling boxes, cases, and whatever extra pre-release kits that they had because they weren't going to use them there. For pre-release, we're at MSRP, and then boxes were maybe 5 to 10% higher than MSRP, which at the time I was very grateful for. And that's ultimately why I pulled the trigger on a case, because I was worried that there wouldn't be sealed product available, in a week or two, in a week or two, where we're at now, basically. And I'm glad I pulled the trigger, because now it's just kind of outrageous and everything is out of stock. This past weekend, when I didn't have kids and my wife was at a concert, I did stop at a couple locations in my journey over to Konnor's house, and completely sold out. The one store that I was able to find single packs for, they had a limit on how many you could buy, and they were higher than MSRP prices. So, and it got me thinking in the sense like, and to just wrap a bow on this, like I haven't seen anything since. So not in any Targets, and for like Target, for example, like it's not just Lorcana, it's almost every TCG. And the only thing that I've seen available in any sort of card-related collectible are sports cards at big stores like a Walmart or a Target, for example. But even like other ones like Pokemon or One Piece or whatever, if they sell those things, all of those are sold out. So it got me thinking, like, is this ultimately going to be a good thing in the long run? Because we've talked about over the course of the last year or two, since we've not only started the podcast, but since we've just as a group been playing, like where truly is Lorcana going to be? We hear from people and friends that are in the community, like once a TCG reaches that second or third year, if they last that long with a good base, then typically that's a sign that this TCG is going to last for the long term, however long that may be, right? 10 years, 15 years, or what have you at a minimum. And we're at that stage with Lorcana. Now, thankfully, there's been a lot more interest, I think, because of the increase in franchises, especially with Pixar opening, right? That's ultimately, I think, where we're getting a lot of it. But there's this double-edged sword feeling in the sense, like, the term that people use, and this is the boogeyman term, is scalpers, right? And are there now scalpers that has been known to be a part of, like, Pokemon, for example? Are they jumping into Lorcana because they saw these price hikes, especially with Wilds Unknown, and the increase in what an enchanted or the iconic value could be for those type of rare cards? And that's, I think, with Wilds Unknown, we saw the interest perk up, I think, from people might not even be playing, just collectors or scalpers. And now that's just transitioned into Wilds Unknown because, again, it's a couple more popular Pixar franchises. And I think people are trying to catch the momentum that Wilds Unknown kind of unleashed. So, I don't know if this is a good thing. I don't have an answer for that question, unfortunately. Maybe you two guys do. I'd like to think for the longevity of the game, this is a good thing. I don't think this has anything to do with Ravensburger. By no means at all. I think that Ravensburger has hit the nail on the head, especially learning from Fabled. They've released a lot of fun new cards since Whispers, so they're hitting really good cards for the last 4 or 5 sets. I think the only thing that Ravensburger is trying to tiptoe through, and Ryan, you weren't a part of this, but I think Konnor, you would remember this. First chapter was really hard to come by, apparently. That kind of flooded into Rise of the Floodborn. Pun not intended, but I just realized I used flood twice there. But then I think Ravensburger was like, whoa, we're getting really popular with these first 2 sets. Let's just print so much Inklands. And then that's right when Konnor and I joined the game. And then Inklands released. The popularity still seemed to be there. But then like 6 months later, all the stores, the most popular set or the most common set that you saw was still Inklands. And they like printed way too much of that product to the point where like stores were trying to resell those for the value that they got from distributors just to get it off of their shelves. Like, it was crazy how much was available for that set. And I think Ravensburger is taking what they learned from that, and like they can't just overwhelm people with the amount of product like they did with Inklands. And they're trying to find that happy medium of how much product to truly print and have out there while meeting the demand for the people that actually play the game, in addition to the demand where we're getting this new wave of collector involvement, scalper involvement, and just potentially just new player base involvement, because we're at a really fun time for new people to join. So I think those three things are all converging at the same time, and I think that unfortunately the result is it's less product is available because it's selling within 30 seconds, it feels like. So I think the balance will kind of figure itself out. But Ravensburger, I think, look forward thinking is you gotta keep, I think what's been nice is you gotta have that franchise per set. I think that's what's worked really well the last 2 sets. We had Toy Story and now it's Monsters Inc. Next set is Coco, which is huge. Like, keep those like staple themes or like franchises per set rather than just like maybe trying to blend it out amongst like 7 or 8 different franchises. I think that'll keep the community engaged. I'd like to know your thoughts, though. Kind of ranted a little bit, but I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I don't know how I feel about it, which is kind of a weird thing that I'm in.
This is not a comment on the conversation. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that kudos to Konnor for being able to take a sip without assaulting the eardrums of our listeners. So thank you, Konnor, for figuring out your mute button. Kudos to you. And
minute 34 from the last episode. Minute 34.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm so
All right,
sorry.
I think Konnor actually had an actually contribution to the conversation, so I'll cede the floor.
Yes, I have been drinking tea a little bit more often, and I may have inadvertently assaulted everyone's eardrums. So I apologize. So yes, I'm learning from my mistakes. The one thing I wanted to talk about, or at least add on to what Mack was saying, is yes, Inklings. Whoa, so overprinted. I think we got like booster boxes for like $70 or something like that. It was absurd. And so obviously they're going to want to try and learn from that mistake. Now, the one thing I do want to take from this situation that was a positive, I went to a Target, checked the TCG section, mainly sports. They're opening up a new segment within Target for other trading card games that I think are separate from sports. And some Targets have already transitioned, some have not. And I went to that section. It's like actually back by the toys. And so right now there's a huge Pokemon display where like they've done like Pokemon Goldfish and like Pokemon clothing and stuff like that. But it's behind it, and it's on that back wall. And so when I was over there checking out, there was actually a fair amount of Pokemon cards there. I was really surprised, but no Lorcana, of course. And I ran into some friends randomly, and we were chit-chatting for like 10-15 minutes. And while I was there, 2 different people, ages probably, they were parents, so I'd imagine under the age of like 13. 2 kids with their parents came by looking for Lorcana. And I thought that was cool, because it seems as though the interest is still there at a big box store. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been on Friday, like when everything was kind of during the day for like big box opening. And so people are paying attention to when drops happen, and the interest seems to be growing. I thought that was really cool. I usually don't see many people at the stores, also the big box stores at least, also looking for Lorcana. And so it was kind of fun to be able to say like, oh yeah, sorry, Attack of the Vine. I was pseudo Target employee for the day. I was like, oh, Attack of the Vine is really scarce. You can't find it here. Maybe at like a league night or an event or something. But as Mack alluded to, hopefully they're just delayed on their, or no, I think Brian said this year, delayed on the shipping of the product, and maybe they're just gonna put it out this week. And so fingers crossed for sure. But I agree with Mack. I mean, I think it's, in the long run, it's better to have the community craving the product rather than having it be saturated. So it's bittersweet, right? Double-edged sword. I don't like it myself. I wish there was exactly the amount of product that I wanted. There you go. That's all I need.
One final note on it is, I think Mack mentioned this like double-edged sword that we're facing, right? Because on one hand, if demand is not high, kind of it seemed like maybe Whispers and Winterspell when they were the active set. You could walk into a game store, you could walk into a Target or a big box store, and you'd be able to find some on the shelf. And whenever you wanted to, you'd always be able to find the temptation that you were looking for, to be able to spend the money that maybe you did or did not have to buy the product to then go play. Now, the other side of the double-edged sword, so that's one side of the double-edged sword, is like you always have this like looming temptation. Now, the other side of the double-edged sword, let's go back to the first point. First point, to expound upon that, the kind of the danger with that is that if the product is always there, maybe there's not enough of a player base or demand for the product, so then they're going to print less, or maybe the game is going to slowly kind of fade off into nothingness. And the other side of that is this like massive overdemand where everybody wants it, everybody's clamoring for it. As soon as it gets stocked, it's out within a day. That kind of like, you have to get it now or you're not going to get it. That we faced the decision on pre-release night at Kraken, where Mack was debating and deliberating, like, okay, do I pull the trigger? Do I not pull the trigger? Is it going to go down? Am I going to be able to find it even? Ultimately landing on the fact that, like, yes, let's just buy it, spend the money that I've been saving up for the last few sets and go for it. Because it's possible and probable that you're not going to be able to find it in the near future for at least a month or two until like a restock wave comes through. If it happens, if they even send a restock wave, because I don't know that that's happened in the last couple of sets. The other side of the double-edged sword now that we're on is the over demand, where you can't find it, but you always want to have product available to you. So the happy medium, as Konnor just mentioned, is I want product available for me when I want to find it, and otherwise do whatever you want with it. And that's kind of the ultimate like consumerism outlook on the situation. I do want to. Do you all have anything else to add related to product availability? Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, and you said it kind of laughing and jokingly, but that opening day when I was trying to figure out if I wanted to get a case, like I was struggling to come up with that decision for, what would you say, Ryan? Like a round? So like an hour of me just like contemplating whether or not I do this. It took me a while to really finally just be like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger on the case. And ultimately why I decided to do that is because of what we experienced with Wilds Unknown. I was fully expecting it to happen with this set as well, but it has me thinking if it's going to be a continuous loop of this kind of situation where product is going to be sold out almost immediately within the next couple, or within the first couple days upon release, like it has me seriously thinking how I want to go about prioritizing especially sealed product moving forward, and how we go about managing that not only with me but maybe as a group, right? Because like if I don't need to open 4 boxes every single set. Like that's just not what I do. Ryan, I realize that's something that you do, but you also have an added excuse of having your wife want to play too. But like for me, like I don't need a case, right? But maybe amongst the group, like we need to start thinking about like, do we want to split a case more often if sealed product is the way to go? And if we want to, we have to make that choice like on release day. We need to make sure we're ready to go on release day with that choice, with the intention of getting something. Because as of right now, that was the closest price to be at MSRP, was at release day. Now, secondly, it also makes me think and kind of go and double back on that feeling like purchasing singles for play sets is like the most cost-effective way for me to go. And seriously prioritizing that singles route as more product becomes available, as other people open it and are trying to sell it on the secondary market. Like if you're thinking about the most like bang for your buck, I think now more so than any other time in Lorcana's history, the singles route and buying singles, you seriously need to consider that. Not only for us and ourselves, but just the community as a whole who might be on a limited budget, because obviously with sealed product going up 30, 40, 50% above MSRP, like singles are the way to go, in my opinion, for the most kind of cost-effective way, more so than any other time. So that's kind of my last thoughts on it. That's something I will continue to contemplate as the next set comes around, because I only see, we're kind of in this like, it almost feels like the first golden era of Lorcana in a way, because like sure, you had first chapter in the second set and maybe like Inklands to some extent, but then we saw kind of this lull for a while, and then Fabled that had its own plateau and lull, and like for various reasons. But now like I think ever since like Pixar was announced a year ago to where it's at now, like I could feel the jump, and it feels like that first golden era of like popularity and excitement in the game, at least ever since I've been a part of it. So I got to seriously consider those things when it comes to cost and how I want to move forward with especially sealed product.
It's very convenient that you left out of your story that you were in the parking lot that evening trying to flip them for $250 a piece. So
oh, stop it. It's still in my cabinet.
I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, all jokes aside, I would love to have exactly what I want whenever I needed it. It's not that hard to ask. But anyways, I appreciate Mac always thinking of us all when it comes to those products. So shout out to Mac. But yeah, let's go ahead and transition, Ryan.
Yeah, Mac, great point about the fact that singles are by far in a way the most cost-effective way to keep playing Core Constructed, or Infinity for that matter, as new sets come out, because I'm looking at singles prices, and it seems like there obviously are some jumps as some of these, like, we're late in the Season 2 competitive season, so a lot of people want to develop and bring the new decks to the forefront immediately for these last chance qualifiers that are happening at the regional championships. We have a few more CCQs, a handful more CCQs before those regional championships, and then that's kind of like everybody's last hurrah, last attempt to really like get into the competitive scene and get into the regional championships, and ultimately the goal of making the world championships and winning the world championships to join DKP as the world champion of Lorcana. But that being said, it seems like the newest set seems to have singles prices that are lower than previous. And that doesn't mean the power level of those cards is going down. We're still seeing plenty of powerful and exciting and new ways to play the game and interact with different decks. So we're kind of all going on this journey together, Mack, Konnor, and I, having played Sapphire for the better part of a year and a half now as one of our staple ink colors for all three of us, because Sapphire used in pre-rotation prior to Attack of the Vine had on turn 2 you could ramp and get ahead a turn, get an extra ink in your inkwell, and that no longer exists. There is one option for turn 2 ramp in Sapphire, and it is an uninkable song, one jump ahead, which is usually more efficiently ramp on 3 by singing with your 2 cost, and then do also something with your 3 ink for that turn. So the ramp, the turn 2 ramp doesn't really exist, and so now we're all three on this new adventure journey together of trying to find our new ink colors and ink pairings. Mack has been kind of familiar with this journey to find a new ink color for the last year, since Ruby Sapphire kind of bit the dust of pre-fabled rotation from season 1. And he's been drawn to Sapphire the entirety of the last 4 sets, and it seems like that is no longer an option for any of us when looking at competitive high competitive decks for Sapphire, for the Sapphire ink color. It just seems like it might just not be there yet, or someone hasn't solved it yet. Maybe that's just the case, and someone much smarter than I, much better at deck building than I, is going to solve it, and then I can just copy their deck list and practice it. So Konnor, where has your journey begun? You are the brewer, the cooker, the man always in the kitchen, the head chef, if you will. What have you been noodling on, and where has your journey taken you so far in the post Sapphire rotation set?
Yeah, I sadly was trying still to make Sapphire work. I was in denial. I was going through the 7 stages. And then, of course, after realizing that maybe Sapphire is not viable, I did what every other deck builder has done for the last 12, 13 sets, is I tried Ruby Steel. And it's maybe a little, sometimes, moderately insufficient. And then I went to super low to the ground, Emerald Amber. It wasn't my style. Definitely has legs. Probably one of the best in the set.
The best. I will say it now. The best. I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's still kind of nuts. Then again, blue-green. Went back, tried again. High roll. Not ideal. I landed on a little bit of Ruby Amethyst for a while. I was kind of monkeying around with a couple different lists. However, my current love is the ink combination of Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Steel, Sapphire together. And for those
how can you do that, Konnor? That's not in the rules.
Oh, well, let me tell you. It is the Honey deck with the new dual ink Christopher Robin Sapphire Amethyst card, legendary card. It says you can use any ink color as long as it has the sub-archetype of the Honey character, Hunny. And I think that is awesome, hilarious. In previous episodes, I have talked about how that is just chaotic, and it is great. I think the chaos is great. I always thought it was going to be a gimmick. However, there have been a few lists that I'm finding to be not only fun, but quite successful. Maybe it's catch your opponent off guard when you toss out that third ink color, and then they go, oh no, and they have to figure out what the heck you're even playing. But is it going to be the best deck in format? Probably not. Is it going to be one of my favorite decks to run? And maybe an option for set champs? Maybe. However, I am still on the hunt. But I swear, if you saw my Dreamborn, my decks page, there has to be at least 28 to 50 different deck lists, all multiple different colors, because I can't really find what I want to play. And of course, I have that tendency to say oh, this is what everyone else is playing. Well, I can't play that. I got to play something else. I got to be the one to break Emerald Steel, or I got to be the one to find that niche, 2-cost item that no one thought was going to be good. And then I end up just running it into the ground and not being able to find success. So I'm still looking. I'm still cooking. I have not given up hope. It is definitely still out there. I mark my words.
Love it. I love the journey to find your way to the honey deck. The adventuring heroes of the Winnie the Pooh universe are going to save you from not having turn 2 ramp. And unfortunately,
I sure hope so.
every deck that I've played just doesn't let that happen, unfortunately. So I don't see it. I hope it works well for you. Mack, where has your journey taken you so far, trying to find our way in the set 13 core constructed meta?
It's actually brought me in a lot of different directions. I think naturally for me, I'm not looking at anything aggressive. So like the Eleanor build with Amber Emeralds is something that I have no interest in. Like I did not like dogs or that play style. And I know that this isn't it, right? But maybe it's just like some PTSD that is just like, I don't like that list. And those colors combined with each other. Like those colors combined with each other have just always been mean. Like, but even before dogs, it was this like heavy discard package.
Discard,
yes. Yeah, that Christian ran against me. And ever since, like, I just don't like that combination. So I don't think I'll ever touch it, or at least in the foreseeable future by any means. It'll take me a lot to even dip my toes into Amber Emerald anything. So I'm not interested in that, but when I started looking into it, I know I alluded to this when we started talking about the reveals. Like one of the tag teams that really stuck out to me was the Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. So like trying to noodle on what Ruby Amethyst could be and what it's in the direction where it's heading. I've seen a couple lists online, and they really piqued my interest on testing that and trying it out. It seems like a lot of fun. Now, kind of the downside for me is I was not an Amethyst player in the last season, so like those core legendaries that are now $1 gajillion, missed out on that investment. So I'm going to be borrowing from my lovely friends here on podcast if it's something that I want to move forward with in Ruby Amethyst. But it seems like just fun. Like I love how that Peter Pan and Tinkerbell is like not necessarily like if you don't have it you lose, but you could tell it's like an identity of that deck, and the tag team serves a meaningful purpose in that deck, and that's what I'm very much excited about. So that's kind of like the mid-range control that I looked at, but naturally I'm trying to figure out the control deck, and I've been into Amber Ruby. Ruby exists, yes, that still is a color, and it turns out of the gate it might have some better foundation in this current iteration of Lorcana. So that is going to be the big control deck for Attack of the Vine, is Amber Ruby, specifically the Boosty Boys version. I play tested that and have play tested that since those boost mechanics have come out offline here and there. I just never had the cards at the time to really like go for it in terms of like trying to search for those singles. But now it's piqued my interest enough where, yes, I want to get these singles. Thank you, Ryan. You have a lot of bulk. So it's something that I want to get my hands on and play it in person and see how it feels. So Amber Ruby, but not only that version, if I was going to do a set champs last set, for Wilds Unknown, it would have been the Amber Ruby toys with Sid and the Woody. So I still have that deck sleeved. I've made some tweaks to it based on what has been released this set. So that's something that I'm very much interested in continuing to practice because I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, there's a lot going on in terms of the Darkwind Detectives list looks really, really fun. I don't know if that's the route that I will go down, but it's intrigued me enough to at least pick up the deck online and play with it online to see how it feels and get used to it. The Omnidroid Bots deck with Purple Steel or Amethyst Steel, that looks really, really fun and something that is going to be an answer to that pesky Amber Emerald deck. So with Amber Emerald being popular, the counters are inevitably be popular, so you got to figure out the counters to the counters, right? So I'm trying to familiarize myself with the Omnidroid deck. So I think there's a lot of fun, and all of them are thematic. Like, there are definitely like purposeful play lines together with each and every one of those decks, and it has me very intrigued. I'm very interested and excited to get to like actual playing with those in person. And thank you, Konnor. I have a fancy new playmat to do this with. Stand by.
Oh. I'm excited to see this.
Konnor picked me up the Circle of Life playmats. He found it at a game store, and he knows that The Lion King is like my favorite childhood movie. So he saw it and was like, I'm getting this for you. And so now I have my, new favorite playmat that I'm very excited to just bring around and play my fancy new decks with. I've been borrowing playmats from our friend Evan because I haven't been a guy to really find an interest in collecting those because I'm not Nathaniel and not Thanos when it comes to winning championship mats all the time. So, but this was one that when it first was released, I was very interested in getting it, and if there was going to be one for me to pull the trigger, and then Konnor found one in stock somewhere, so I was like, yes, okay, this is now my mat. So it's nice to feel like this mat is mine, and I can and try out these new fun decks with on my fancy new playmat. So a lot to be excited about on my end, not only about shiny cardboard, but also the playmat to go with it.
Champion mat loading. Now that Mack has a home playmat that he can call his own. So your journey has been very similar to mine. I've been playing a little bit on our online options, just to try to familiarize myself with the decks and get used to what the different play lines are. I tried out to start this. Can I make Blurple work? Can I make Amethyst Sapphire work? That's where I started off. I didn't do that on the ladder. I just did a couple of quick play games, and turns out I can't make it work. I wanted to. I really did. I tried Darkwing Duck, the 4/1 ward on 2, and then I tried a couple of ramp on 3 options. So I played 1 jump, and then I had Mickey Mouse Detective as my ramp options, and then just trying to hammer home the 5-drop slots. With Hades and Mrs. Incredible and Kanga on 3 if you miss your ramp, so you still have a singer, and then trying to cheese out and try to sing Second Star earlier with Kanga and something else, and it didn't work. It just fell flat on its face, too easily removed. Darkwing Duck gets to do one thing and that's it, and it's done. And it gets traded off by every other 1-drop in the world. And so it's just, it wasn't working. So I transitioned and I went to something else, and I started with Ruby Amethyst. And I thought, this evasive thing, the Peter Pan and Tink, is really cool, and I really want to try it. And it did great. I was flying high, as one may say. I was very evasive, and all of Peter Pan and Tink made me feel like I could fly. And then I finished my intro series of games, and I started playing against, the ladder matches in the realm of the ELO that I was at, and was getting stomped. Every Amber deck just feels terrible, because Peter Pan and Tink is on the chopping block for every Gaston in the world, and also Horseman Strikes takes it out very easily. And so then if you have one Peter Pan and Tink and you exert everything, and they take out your Peter Pan and Tink, and then they get a bunch of advantageous trades, it's not doing, your Ruby Amethyst deck isn't doing the thing it's supposed to be doing, because you're not getting the value out of the evasiveness. So fell flat on its face against Amber Ruby Control, which felt really bad. And then I saw that deck won a CCQ, and I thought, this deck is going to be everywhere. And guess what? It was. It was everywhere. It was every single best of 1 match that I saw for 5 straight, and I lost every one of them because there's just too many answers in that deck for what the Ruby Amethyst that I was running was trying to do, which was shift out, Louisa, shift out Peter Pan, play a Dumbo, draw a million cards, play the Scrooge to stall things. It was very good at what it was trying to do, and there's definitely good pieces there, and it's definitely a very good deck, just not right now, because there's too many answers in Amber. If Ruby Amber really becomes the big control deck, and you can't get past the big control deck in my matches, then probably not going to be very successful or go very far if you're not getting past the big control deck. Every time I played Mack on his Ruby Sapphire prior to first rotation, that's what it felt like. You just can't win. There's no answers. Once it gets to turn 7, it's over because they have all the control. So then I moved on to, I tried Ruby Steel for a little bit. That was a blast, because that was able to combat some of the Emerald shenanigans that was happening. A lot of great... Ruby Steel has more card draw than I think it's ever had in the entirety of the game. And it doesn't feel bad. It feels pretty okay. Dash Par, the 5-cost inkable 4/4 with evasive, quests for 1, shift for 3, and every time that character quests, you may reveal the top card of your deck and play that card for the ink cost, or you pay all costs. You can play that card. Effectively, not truly, but effectively drawing you an extra card every turn. So that feels great. Violet Par is the 5-cost inkable 4/4 with resist 1 and steal that shifts for 3. And whenever you play this or another hero character, you may draw and discard a card. So that's filtering, which is nice. And then on top of all that, in Perfect Magic Fantasyland, you get to shift the Dash Par and Violet Par team up, which is an 8-cost inkable 5/5 evasive resist +1 combo shift 6 quest for 2. And whenever that character quests or challenges, you may draw a card. So resist 1, it's going to survive a lot of challenges. Evasive, it's not going to get challenged back, and you get to draw a card every time that it challenges or quests. So if you have any way to re-ready it, you can draw multiple cards per turn. Otherwise, it's probably going to survive to the next turn because of evasive and resist 1. And then you can do it again and again and again. I forgot a key part of that: the combo shift 6. You can shift it on top of a Dash Par or a Violet Par or one of each. And then I did mess up the effect. It is draw a card for each card under this card. So if you have already shifted and you shift on top again, or you shift on multiple, you have a Dash Par and a Violet Par out and you shift on both. Every time that character exerts, then you're drawing 2 cards, which is great card draw. And it has the steel package of Omni Droids and things like that to deal with a lot of the early game aggression. So, and the songs and everything like that. So an Angel, you can play Angel, which is good. But that wasn't really doing it for me either. I also got choked out by Amber Ruby. So then I tried Amber Ruby and I thought, I can't beat him, let's join. And it's good. I like it. It fits my playstyle. It's a little weird getting used to like the Webby's Diary, like ink sync lines, and how much ink you actually need to like have an effective turn while also drawing cards. But it's good. It just, if somebody is very aware of it and is picking off all of your boost characters as you're going along, it can kind of run flat a little bit, but at least you have the board wipes to kind of reset things, and that's good. And then the Sully and Boo shift tag team, that's a great loop to really just close out the game. So that is a very good deck, but I wasn't really sold on it yet. So then I was like, let's try something else. Let's try Amber Amethyst, and that's where my journey has led so far. We'll see where it goes from here, but that is a deck that is effectively Amethyst Sapphire pre-rotation with removal instead of Inkwell removal, just hard removal. So you have Horseman Strikes, and then you have Gaston, and then you have you're the typical Amethyst package from the last 4 sets. So that feels good. It feels like the mid-range, high mid-range, or control mid-range kind of that I've been used to, because it plays very similar to how Blurple or Amethyst Sapphire played pre-rotation. So that's been a kind of a comfort pick. But I'm going to keep branching out, seeing what's out there. I have not yet given into the dark side. I have not yet tried Amber Emerald. I've tried it in the past, and the aggro kind of playstyle isn't really for me. But whenever I see it facing up, whenever I face against it, it always seems to draw a million cards and do a million things and gain a million lore, and it's just like, this is unreasonable. I need to figure this out, or at least play it to see how I lose, and then replay that from the other side. So that's where I'm currently at. Excited to continue on with the process of refining and revising and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Tinkering with lists is kind of where I find a lot of joy and satisfaction. And so that's where I'm currently at.
Come to the honey side.
I can't do it. I tried. I tried a little bit. I can't do it.
So your kind of explanation here, Ryan, has helped branch a couple other questions that I have on this topic. And this one's specific for you, and then I have a second one kind of just for the group here. The first one for you is, obviously, since you started the game, you were playing Blurple. That's been your bread and butter. That's been your favorite list, Amethyst Sapphire, right? And you got very, very good at it and very, very comfortable with it. And now this topic, we're talking about Sapphire, and that's what my second question has to deal with about. But like, you loved Sapphire and you loved Amethyst. So are you finding that with Blurple, you loved the Amethyst side of things more, and that's what you're kind of been leaning on in your play testing? Or did you like the Sapphire things more? And but due to Sapphire's state, it's just, you kind of just weaseled out of it. and you're forced to do something else. What play styles of those inks have you liked more? Or have you noticed something as you've been forced to really test other decks as a result of rotation here?
I think the Amethyst Sapphire lists pre-rotation were predominantly, that I've seen at least, that I played at least, were like 40 Amethyst cards, 20 Sapphire cards, right? So overall, Amethyst was the ink identity I probably identified with most, because my goal that I've learned from my wife from being absolutely demolished by her in every card game we've ever played, if you draw a lot of cards, you're more likely to win a lot of games. Plain and simple. Trading card games, Wingspan, other card games of whatever kind you want, Harry Potter Adventure Battle, whatever the name of it actually is, Hogwarts Battle. If you draw cards, you win games. And so that's been what I've been trying to focus on, is like, how do I draw more cards? And Amethyst is the card draw color, until Amber took that title with Ohana and Webby's Diary and, you know, everything else under the sea. Not under the sea, but everything else under the horizon. The not beyond the horizon, that's Steel, Konnor. I saw your look. So Amethyst is traditionally the ink, the draw color combination. So that's what I kind of like. What I really liked about Amethyst Sapphire was the fact that I could do play Amethyst cards sooner than my opponent could play Amethyst cards if I was in an Amethyst mirror. And also sooner or faster than my opponent would be ready for me to play these Amethyst cards if I was playing against a different ink color. So playing a 5 cost on 3 is not the same, or playing a 5 cost on turn 4 as your first like ramp option, as your first time to get ahead on ink in the game, ink tempo in the game, is not anywhere near the same as playing a 4 cost character on turn 3, because that turn 3 is a very pivotal turn for an aggro deck and for control decks too. That is like the turning point where you finally get things set up, or the aggro list like gets their full combo together and they're like off to the races, and you need to stop it then before it gets set up and finishes. And then the control decks, like, you need to get going faster so that you cut off their engine they're starting to build on turn 3, because by the time you get to turn 4, there's going to be too many pieces compiled and you're not going to be able to get there. And so that I'm finding that being able to do those Amethyst things a turn early is very impactful, and that's what I really liked, was being able to, like, that was like kind of a way to flip the play draw setting as well, where on the draw you can still get a step ahead and get an ink ahead, get an ink advantage in that way by playing a card a turn earlier. And then when you're on the play, you get way ahead by getting 2 ink ahead with the Amethyst Sapphire list. So that's what I really liked. And I'm finding that now in the new set, I'm still drawn to like the Amethyst mid-range control options, because it's very strong in that realm. And it draws a lot of cards, which I like drawing cards, because that seems fun to me. I want to see at least half my cards in any given game, because that feels like I'm actually playing the game. If I only see 15 of my cards and the game's already over, that feels like a tease. I don't really get the full experience of just playing Disney Arcana if I only see 15 of my cards. Whereas if I see 30 of my cards, it's like, oh yeah, we played a game. Let's go again. Let's shuffle up. So that's kind of what I'm noticing, to answer your question. And I do like some of the control elements, because that's kind of the play style I like to play, is a little bit more slow and controlled. I want to get to those cards. Like I said, I want to see 30 of my cards in a game, and that's when I feel like I've played a full game. And I'd rather do that than just like zoom out to a 5-turn win and be like, okay, cool, let's go to the next one. Because that doesn't feel good for me as the winning player if I was playing an aggro list and winning in 5 turns. And I've been on the other side of it, and it does not feel good for the opponent when you're winning in 5 turns and they haven't had a chance to do anything really, or you've shut down everything they're doing. They played 3 cards and you've removed all 3 with your removal cards. If you're playing like an Amber Steel list, and you're like, okay, cool, game over, great. So that's kind of what I'm noticing.
Okay, so that makes sense to me. I know that's something you've alluded to in the past, is you just like to draw as many cards as possible. So I figured the Amethyst side of things would be the way that you've leaned into it. But all of us, like you said in the beginning of this topic, we're like the Sapphire players of our immediate friend group, and something that, not only that's something like we've always been comfortable with, is how Sapphire plays. Now, my follow-up question to this for both of you is, if there's one thing I think this is a legitimate concern about with this rotation, is Sapphire, and Sapphire getting essentially the Ruby treatment of Season 2. I do not want to see that happen again. I do not want to see essentially an ink color out of the core constructed metagame for an entire season. That was not fun. And I'm not trying to be like, make this personal in the sense, but like, for those of you who like invested in Maui Shark, like you did not play that for an entire year. It felt bad. And other like core cards, even like the new like really fun cards in Whispers is the first thing I can think of. Like the Headless Horseman Ruby, like it was a really fun card to play, but it was in such like niche decks where it never broke the mold in like a truly competitive sense. Sure, we saw the first iterations of like the Boosty Boys, for example. And then Ruby finally started to see some love in set 12 when it came to the toys lists, right? In Amber Ruby. But other than that, Ruby just felt so bad. And I am worried that this is where we're heading towards for Sapphire, because as we've alluded to in our Ink series, like what each ink wants to do. The common theme that we had come up with Sapphire is like, that was the ultimate support color. And now that it doesn't have ramp, almost its entire support to me feels like it's gone. Like, other than the Darkwing Detectives list, like, what else does Sapphire have right now that I think is viable in a core constructive way? Now, you can't hit every nail on the head in a rotation. I get that. This set, it's gonna feel bad. But man, I hope they have some really good releases coming out for set 14 and 15 in the very near future, because that's, I think, where they missed the most with Ruby is Fabled was one thing, but then to have like Whispers and Winterspell feel like there were no other decks that came out of what Ruby could be. I'm worried for Sapphire and don't want to see that happen again for another ink.
Trying to play the devil's advocate here, I agree that it's not fun when one ink color is deemed to be unplayable, or at least unplayable to the competitive standard, because again, I will play anything. But it's almost seeming as though it's like, man, I really hate how the team in last place always gets looked down on. And it's like, okay, well then we'll remove that standing. Well, it's like, well, if we don't have a best, we have to have, like, we have to have a best and have a worst. Like, there has to be that dichotomy. And it seems as though like if we don't have like the best ink color, we won't have the worst ink color. And that would be a perfect world, right? Where like every ink is viable. But again, it's again trying to simulate it to sports, like the NFL or MLB, MLS, anything. There's always going to be a good team and there's always going to be a bad team. If every team was at the same level, yeah, it could be a really cool, interesting league where like anyone could win. But I think the statistical probability of being able to measure that, and then all of a sudden have someone come out and run a 50 card item deck where they have 4 Buzz Lightyears, 4 Potions of Malice, 4 adventure books. I don't know if anyone would have put that together in production. And so again, I think that it's just the hopes of having all colors be viable in a set seems just like that, hopeful. But I don't know if that'll ever exist where we don't have the worst color versus the best color. If that makes sense in any sense.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, I get each set's going to have a best and worst. I get that feeling. But what I don't want is to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then way down here 6. Like, more so like enough variability and enough playability where there's viability. Wow. In every single color to be played, maybe not at a peak like pro level, DLC level, but at least at a local meta like set championship level where we just don't see an ink disappear. I think that's because that's the player base is biggest at a local level, right? So I want to see all the inks to be viable in that sort of setting, and I'm curious to see where Sapphire is going to be, especially next set. I think this set I've just kind of accepted it, because if you want to play strong decks and want to have like winning percentage success, Sapphire is not the color right now, and I've accepted that fate. And I've accepted that you can't get anything perfect. You can't get everything perfect right away in a rotation. But to keep the variety there and keep the interest peak in a rotation, that's where the value is. And then you can kind of course correct on the way there. My devil's advocate to your devil's advocate is like Sapphire. Very much the identity from Ravensburger was like ramp. Be able to put more cards in your inkwell much faster than your opponent. That's like the main identity. Well, now with what Amber is doing in cheating out ink, so to speak, like this pseudo ramp, well, people are just gonna, and the fact that Amber has removal and really good like big characters, there's so much that and healing and drawing cards with Amber, like there's so much there with Amber, plus it has this pseudo ramp that it almost makes like that's I think another part of my concern is like, if you want ramp, just play Amber because it has pseudo ramp, and see you later, Sapphire, right? So we'll see. Again, I'm optimistic about the next set or two that the course will be corrected, so to speak. But as of right now, if you want to win, it's definitely not Sapphire by any means.
I will kind of hedge that statement a little bit. I don't fully agree with you. I do think that Sapphire lost its identity, and I think that's kind of the big piece right now with this rotation. We're only 2 weeks in, right? We're in the start of the second week, I will say, a week and a half in to the full meta being released. I would expect that somebody figures out something with Sapphire. Sapphire Steel is kind of a front runner in that regard, not really in the ramping sense, but more in like this Ward Detectives package, which is nice that they have this alternative identity to be able to lean on in times where ramp is not prevalent. But I do think that somebody's going to figure out a ramp list that is going to work well, and then it's going to become prevalent because people like playing ramp decks. And so it might be Emerald Amethyst with the Mickey Mouse shenanigans. It might be Amethyst Sapphire. Somebody smarter than I is going to try it. It might be the Honey deck. It might be maybe somebody wants to try Ruby Sapphire and play out big Leviathans or something like that with all the ink they get from their Kita. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I will hold out hope for another 4 weeks and wait for somebody else to crack the meta and crack the code, and then I will copy that and we can go from there. But I'm not going to pass final judgment yet. I'm going to slide my hand underneath your gavel and not let you hit the wood underneath you. And take a little bit of pain with it, because trying to make a Sapphire deck work right now kind of feels like you're slamming a gavel on your hand over and over and over again. But that being said, I'm not a good deck builder. I feel like I'm a decent tinkerer. I get a good list and I kind of make a couple of tweaks, but I'm not a good deck builder, and I will openly admit that. So I can't yet solve it, but I think that somebody smarter than me might be able to solve it, especially if there's a way for it to really cleanly answer and impact the popular decks in the meta. So things like Amber Emerald, Amethyst Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, and Ruby Amber are kind of the front runners, and Amethyst Steel for that matter, and Amber Steel as well. So that's 6 colors we have to deal with. I think when we have more of a solved meta after a few weeks of major tournaments, we'll figure things out. And I think that somebody's going to crack the code and will come up with something for Sapphire to do. Just like with Ruby, maybe not in Fabled, but in Whispers, Ruby Amethyst was a popular deck that found decent amount of success. In Winterspell, I don't really know that there was much of a Ruby presence, but that's when the Ruby Amber boost mechanic deck kind of started coming to the forefront. And then in Wilds Unknown, it was the toys, Ruby Amber toys, and the boost deck kind of sprouted a new set of wings and really took off a little bit. So there was a little bit, and then Ruby Sapphire towards the end was really an answer to the meta of the main competitive decks of Amber Emerald with the dogs list and everything like that, because it could very cleanly answer a lot of those characters that the Amber Emerald players were playing out. So Ruby Sapphire finally found its footing 2 weeks before rotation. And then promptly was swept away because you can no longer ramp. So that's how it goes. And you also lost Shark, and you lost Lilo, and everything else that went along with it. That's how it goes. Well, I think someone else is going to figure out a good list again, and I will have fun playing it once it becomes public knowledge. But until then, best of luck to you, deck builders out there. keep making Ruby work, keep making Sapphire work, because we believe in you, and I can't wait to play the list that you're coming up with when you finally do crack the code.
I feel like we can go back and forth on this for just hours. And again, it's just something that I'm starting to think a little bit more intentionally about the different colors and different inks and identities and things. And I was thinking, like, maybe if they had some Sapphire toys or something like that, that would have maybe increased the likelihood of someone running like a yellow-blue or a red-blue, like a toys variant or something along those lines. Maybe not as like the main thing, but at least have some sort of option. Because again, I feel like with toys, I mean, again, it's Amber, Emerald, Ruby, and that's about it. And again, with Monsters Inc. right now, it's predominantly the Amber, Ruby as well. And so I feel like if they would have branched out a little bit more, but again, that doesn't. It takes away the identity piece and just gives everyone the same identity. So it's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword, as we've said about 13 times this pod. But I don't know. I think it's, again, there's a lot of theory crafting and if this, then that, and this, then that. And if they play this, then I play this. But if they know that I'm going to play this, maybe I should play this. And it's going to go back and forth.
The perpetual cycle of mind games, isn't it, Konnor? Yes. All right. Well, we've been talking your ear off for a long time now, so we will give it a rest for now. I promise that Nathaniel will be back soon. Maybe not permanently, because he's in a very busy season of life right now, a very busy season of sports as well. But he will be back. Ooh. He is still committed to it, to us, to you, to this podcast. Hopefully in the near future, and definitely at some point in the future, Nathaniel will be back. For Konnor, for Mack, for our friend Winnie the Pooh, thanks for listening. Find us on YouTube, find us on Spotify, find us on Apple Podcasts. Spread the word if you like listening to us, and share it with your friends and family and players that you play with in local league nights or at set championships or sealed events, whatever it is. We're happy to interact with you. Feel free to drop us a comment, a like, follow if you feel so inclined. And until next time, everybody, let's get the duck out of here.